Welcome to another Creative Spark Plugs. I'm Eric Scott, and I'm here once again to share a quick, easy idea just to get you moving and making to get those creative juices flowing. And today's activity actually is all about tessellations. And you may or may not be familiar with that term. A tessellation is really just a pattern where there's no empty spaces. So a visual pattern where there's no empty spaces, like a simple grid, thinking about maybe a tile bathroom floor or the tile wall. Basically, there's no empty spaces in it. But probably what many people think of whenever they hear the word tessellation, they think of MC Escher's tessellation. So the artist MC Escher, very mathematical kind of thing. So we're not going to do that kind of like really precise. So Escher did bugs and birds and fish and had these very intricate shapes that would fit together and would create this pattern where there were no blank spaces in it. And in order to do that, to kind of make a repeating tessellation like that is pretty involved, and it's something I don't want to get into because it is involved, and this is all about getting started quick and easy. So I've adapted this to what I call freeform tessellations, and Escher did a few of these if you kind of dig into his work, and I kind of like them better than the very mathematical, very repetitive ones. So with this, you're just going to need something to draw with. I'm going to use a piece of mixed media paper and a black drawing pen. But yeah, I want to show you how you can do your own freeform tessellation to create a piece where there are no blank spaces and it's all these interlocking shapes and drawings. So let's go ahead and turn it over and we'll get started. I've got my paper, just a 6 by 8 inch piece of mixed media paper and a black drawing pen. You can have your paper either way. I'm going to hold it this way just so that it fits the format of the video, because with this kind of drawing, there really is no up and down because things end up kind of going anyway. And so the idea of this is to draw. I usually start at an edge and end at an edge. So yeah, I might start here and go over here. I might start here and come down here. And I like just to kind of take my pen for a walk. We've kind of done that before, but just kind of letting the line wiggle a little bit, kind of go in one direction a little bit, and then go off the edge of the paper. And I can come down from top to bottom. And so really this line can wander all over, and I crisscross them, and I just keep doing that. Now, if you wanted to, you could set up your own rules. So sometimes you might want to come in and stop at a line, and then maybe come over here and continue it across. But the idea is that I'm creating smaller and smaller shapes, and I'm trying to keep it pretty random. And I can do curvy lines. I could have them, my lines are crisscrossing. But the idea is that I'm dividing up the space so they can crisscross, they can stop. However, so I'm just really getting that space divided into smaller and smaller shapes. And so it's kind of like creating a puzzle. And then, if I wanted to, I could cut this apart and turn it into a puzzle. But yeah, so I've got, this is looking pretty good. And so I have all these kind of random shapes now. And what I want to do is I want to look at each shape. And one of the things I like to do is actually turn my paper. And so as I turn my paper, I start to see each shape from a different angle. And this is like that childhood game of kind of seeing shapes in the clouds. So I'm looking at these shapes and I'm trying to think about how I can turn them into stuff. So sometimes you're going to see things and you're going to be like, oh, that could be a face. Actually, like looking at this shape right here, I could see this as a face. I could see this as a nose. Here could be the mouth. An eye could be up here, so I could turn it into a person. Turning this one right here looks like it could be a fish. So this could be the head of the fish. This could be a fin. This could be the tail. of the fish, maybe a little fin down here. So yeah, so I want to just turn it. Now, here's what I like to do. Being a guy who likes to draw monsters, I like to just limit myself to drawing monsters in these, or like creatures or something like that. So that kind of monstrous creatures and things. And I find that's a little bit easier because, really you can kind of turn anything into a monster. So, yeah, I'm just kind of turning it and looking. And I think I'm going to start with this shape right in the middle. You don't have to start in the middle. You could start anywhere, really. But I just saw this. I see this as a snout. Maybe this is a horn. So maybe there is a mouth. If my pen will draw. There it goes. All right, so just kind of drawing. That's going to be a mouth. Maybe there's a little tooth sticking up there and one there. Like I said, maybe this is a horn or a spike sticking out. Maybe a little nostril for a nose. And then thinking about an eye. Maybe it's got a slit. And then, kind of thinking about details. So if this is a spike or a horn, or maybe it's an ear, let's make it into an ear. And then maybe there are like fins or spikes going down the back. And then, maybe a few scales, because it's looks like some kind of like dragon type creature. Maybe some little textures and dots and wrinkles. So that's the thing. As I'm doing this, I can make it like add all those details, all those textures. And then what I like to do is I will take my pen and go around the outside just to make the outside line a little thicker. And then what that does, it allows that shape, that creature, to kind of be separated from everything that's around them. Now, you don't have to do this part, but it's something I like to do. Just make it a little bit thicker, a little bolder, really starts to stand out. And then I turn it, so what do I see next? And I just turn and, I'm just kind of looking, trying to find a shape that I'm going to turn into. Oh, here's a shape I think I can work with. I have these kind of two marks that go up, like this little jagged area. So I'm kind of thinking this could be an eye right here. And I can put some detail in that eye. Maybe there's some wrinkles. All right. And then I'm thinking like over here is another eye, the other eye. Right. And then thinking about like maybe this is a mouth coming in this way. Maybe a couple nostrils. So putting all these like little dots, little lines, just to kind of create some texture. Okay, and just like I did with the other one, just going to go around and make it a little bit thicker around the edge. So I often see heads, but sometimes I'll turn it and I'll see like an entire body of some kind of creature or some kind of monster. Um, but it's really up to you. You're looking, what do you see? And as you're looking at mine, you might see some things that I'm not seeing yet. So anyway, but I would just continue with this until I fill up each space. And you don't have to fill up every space if you don't want to, but I find that's a good challenge. So I'm not going to do any more, but I do want to show you one that I've already done, and just to kind of give you an idea. And so I went through and just looked at every single shape. And so, like, here's a little creature with horns, and I have, four legs on it, little tail. But a lot of it is just head. So here's like a monster head. Here's a guy with a full body. I try to put little textures on it with like fur. And again, you can see how I thicken the lines around just to kind of help see it, make things separate. But of course, I could go back and paint it. I could color it. There's lots of things I could do to it. But again, I consider it a tessellation because there's really no empty space in between each of the shapes. So that's just a good challenge. So think about how you might make a free-form tessellation, just some random lines, and then start looking at it. You don't have to do monsters and creatures like I did. Oftentimes you'll look and you'll see faces and people or animals or objects. It depends on what kind of lines you do. I do a lot of squiggly wiggly lines, and I think that tends to lend itself to some kind of monsters or creatures. But again, if I turn it in different directions, you'll start to see all those different kind of creatures that I ended up making. So anyway, just something to kind of think about. All right. I love this activity. I do it quite a bit, and it's just a fun challenge to get some ideas going, to get my hand moving. And one of the keys to this, I think, is really the detail. If you can go into a lot of detail, drawing in fur, drawing in stripes, drawing in, little wrinkles around eyes, no matter what you're drawing, whether you are drawing monsters and creatures or if you're drawing other things, think about how you can put those details in it. And like I said, I like to do the thick line around each of the drawings just to help separate it from everything else around it. But feel free, once you draw it, feel free to go back in and color it in with colored pencil or marker, or think about adding paint or mixed media to it. So it makes for a fun start for something a little bit more complex, a little bit bigger. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this idea of free-form tessellations. It's a pretty simple idea, but it's just another idea to get you going, get you making, get you creating. So anyway, yeah. So if you like what you see, please make sure that you subscribe so that you can stay up to date with anytime I post a new video. And don't forget to hit that like button. And please share anything that you've been making. Make sure you tag me on social media or share these videos with people. If you're a teacher, share it with your students. If you are somebody who just thinks that these are interesting little activities, please share and let other people know. So anyway, I appreciate you tuning in for another Creative Spark Plugs. I'm Eric Scott. Thank you so much and happy creating.